A hooded figure fights a giant monster and trounces it. He stares at his hand with a symbol and says the symbol is useless since there is no room for growth. He possesses only 3 of the 4 crests. The first crest specializes in creation, the second specializes in power, and the third specializes in rapid firing. He believes that for him to grow stronger, he has to acquire the 4th crest, which is best suited to combat. A person's crest appears at birth and cannot be changed, so the figure decides to reincarnate far into the future. Alright, so this young kid is looking at the 4 crest seal on his hand. He's riding with his dad to the capital, and his dad is all like, "Man, it's so impressive you're taking the entrance exam at just 12 years old." But the kid's totally serious, telling his dad he's dead set on getting stronger. Then, out of nowhere, the boy's crest starts tingling, and he senses a monster coming their way from super far off. He describes it to his dad, but his dad just laughs, saying, "Based on what you're saying, that'd be a calamity-grade monster." And what do you know? A freaking calamity-grade monster pops up right in front of them, but our boy just steps up and takes it down. No problem. They finally get to the capital, and the kid says goodbye to his dad. He's wandering around when he walks into a sword shop. Inside, he sees this young girl begging the shop owner to fix her friend's magic sword, but the owner is just shutting her down, saying no can do. The boy takes a look around and notices that the swords are pretty well made, but the enchantments on them are straight up garbage. The girl is getting desperate, telling the owner the entrance exams are tomorrow and she needs that sword. The guy tells her to try somewhere else because he can't make an enchanted blade. He asks if one of the swords he already has will work, but she describes what she needs, and the dude confirms he definitely can't help her. That's when our boy, who's been watching this whole thing, steps in. He offers to handle the enchantment, even though his 4th crest is supposedly terrible for that kind of thing. The shop owner even scoffs, calling it the crest of failure. But the girl isn't having it. She slams a magistone on the table and says she'll trust the kid. She tells the owner to just make the sword, and they'll let the boy handle the enchanting. While the smith gets to work, the girl introduces herself as Alma Lapucius. Our hero calls himself Matthias Hildesheimer, or Maddie for short. Alma starts telling him about her friend who owns the sword. Just then, Alma's friend, Luri, walks in asking if she had any luck. Alma introduces Maddie to Luri, explaining that he's going to enchant the sword for them. The second Maddie and Luri see each other, they both just freeze. Luri awkwardly introduces herself as Luria Bendroth. Finally, the sword is ready. Maddie gets to work enchanting it. He explains that the only way to make it long and light enough for a real fight is to add Enhance Fortitude and Sunder Steel. And then, bam, he does it, like it's nothing, without even saying a single magic word. Everyone is totally blown away. He hands the sword to Luri to test it out. She just drags it across a table, and it slices the whole thing clean in half. They're all freaking out over how powerful the enchantment is, but Maddie's just like, it's just a standard enchantment. The shop owner is so impressed he offers Maddie a job on the spot, but Maddie turns him down. Next up, the practical exams begin. They're testing swordsmanship and casting. Maddie is taking the test too, and he runs into Luri. Alma joins them, complaining that she did great in everything except the tactics part, which she thought was super hard. Luri just tells them they should all work together to pass. During the sparring test, it's Luri's turn. She's up against some guy, and with one swing of her newly enchanted sword, she cuts his weapon right in half, making him surrender instantly. Then it's Maddie's turn. His opponent seems to know all about him, even that he's the one who enchanted Luri's sword. But wait, Maddie ends up facing the examiner himself. The examiner says he wants to see what his father, Castor, taught him. Maddie's shocked the guy knows his dad. The examiner then says if Maddie can hold his own, he'll personally make sure he passes, no matter how he does on the other tests. They draw their swords, and Maddie immediately notices the examiner's stance is wide open. He thinks the guy might be going easy on him, which honestly kind of insults him. A test is supposed to be about showing what you can really do, right? So, he charges. The examiner is completely stunned to see a little kid parry his strike. They keep dueling until Maddie knocks the sword right out of the examiner's hands, forcing him to surrender. Everyone's jaws are on the floor. The captain of the Knight's Order, a dude named Guile, just lost to a 12-year-old. The casting exam is next. Luri goes first. The task is to hit 5 targets with a fire arrow spell. She recites the incantation and fires them off one by one. Maddie mentally notes that incanted casting, where you have to say specific words, is a skill anyone can learn, but it's super inefficient with magic power, leaves you wide open to attacks while you're chanting, and is basically useless in a real fight. Luri has the Crest of Glory, the first crest, which is perfect for incanted casting, and is considered the best for magical combat. When it's Maddie's turn, he asks if Fire Arrow is the only spell they can use. The examiner says not really, it's just the most basic one. Then he sees Maddie's 4th crest, the Crest of Failure, and tells him he might still pass if he does well in other areas. Maddie just confirms the goal is to destroy the targets from a long way away. He tells the examiner to step back a bit so he can create a magic circle without chanting. He then unleashes a massive flame that explodes mid-air, eating up the ground and blowing all the targets away in the blast. Of course, Maddie gets accepted into the school, along with Luri and Alma. He puts on his new uniform and sees that it fits perfectly. At the opening ceremony, the headmaster, a guy named Eduard, addresses the new students. He tells them that formality is for the first academy. Here at the second academy, ability is everything. Then, he tells Maddie to drop by his office after the assembly. Maddie's wondering why the headmaster wants to see him. When he gets to the office, Eduard tells him he's sure there's a deeper reason why someone so young is so powerful, even with Castor as his father. He says he won't pry, but he needs Maddie's help. Apparently, wordless casting is a lost art, and he's been trying to bring it back at the second academy. The only thing in his way is their sister school, the first Royal Academy. Eduard wants Maddie to teach the students wordless casting, so they can crush the Royal Academy at the next inter-school competition. The second Maddie agrees to help, all the instructors in the room start cheering. So, in the next class, Maddie is introduced as a special guest instructor. He shows off his wordless casting, and all the students are amazed. The main instructor then says Maddie isn't the only one who can do it, and introduces a Mr. Geisel. Geisel gives it a shot, but his aim is nowhere near as good as Maddie's. He tells everyone that Maddie's teaching got him that far in just one day. And with that, the students all start practicing like crazy. Luri runs out of magic while she's training, so Maddie has her hold out her hand and transfers some of his magic power directly to her. She tries wordless magic again, and this time, she nails it. In the end, Maddie ends up teaching wordless casting to the entire student body. A month later, it's time for the inter-school competition. Luri tells Maddie she really hopes there are no magical chosen ones at the competition. She says that every year, right when it looks like the second academy might actually win, one of these superpowered people shows up and wrecks everything. Just as she says that, Maddie senses someone nearby with roughly 10 times his own magic power. Alma hears this and compares it to the power of a demon. She tells him that demons are so strong that even all the court magicians working together probably couldn't beat one. And that's when Maddie has a chilling realization. In this era, the demons were never actually wiped out. Maddie walks out to the arena and faces Devilis, one of the magical chosen ones. The first academy winning this competition will make it their 65th win in a row. Devilis possesses a crest of glory. Maddie suspects that Devilis is a demon who is using a disguise spell to hide his true form, and even has a fake crest to let him walk with humans. The 65th Inter-Academy competition commences. Lysis and Jaz start the attack, but they get defeated by Maddie. Devilis sees this and mistakenly casts a spell before starting his chant, and this shocks everyone. Maddie attacks him at close range with his sword, making Devilis fly backward. He casts another wordless casting that proves him to be a spell-casting demon pretending to use incantations. The demons are the cause of magical decline, as they want human spells to be as weak as possible, and have infiltrated the academy long ago to have the fourth crest declared the crest of failure. Devilis is shocked at Maddie's strength, and Maddie breaks his disguise, revealing his true demon form. The headmaster of the first academy is shocked to see Devilis's true form, and Eduard orders the students to be evacuated. Maddie cuts off Devilis's wings before he can escape, defeating him in the process. Maddie is thinking to himself that he totally drove the demons to the brink of extinction back in his old life. See, he used to be Gaius the Sage. So yeah, Maddie knows something is seriously wrong with this day and age. Okay, so Matthias is the third son of the Hildesheimer family, but really he's Gaius, reincarnated into this world. Maddie quickly realizes that the crest that used to be the absolute strongest is now considered the weakest one. Suddenly, Luri runs up and throws her arms around Maddie, telling him how glad she is that he's safe. But then Alma walks over and is like, do you even realize what you're doing? Which makes Luri snap back to reality and realize she totally acted on impulse. Maddie meets up with Eduard and tells him that beating a demon is not that big of a deal. But Eduard is like, dude, no one in history has ever taken down a demon all by themselves. The two of them go to meet the king, they do all the formal greetings, and Maddie introduces himself. The king tells him he's super impressed that he defeated the demon. He says that normally, he'd broadcast Maddie's awesome deed everywhere and give him some honorary title. But if he does that, the whole world will know that demons have snuck into their ranks. Maddie thinks to himself that he does not want a high-ranking job anyway. He just wants to get stronger. The king considers offering him a magic sword with a double enchantment. He tells Maddie that a blacksmith sold it to him recently, and this makes Maddie realize it was the spare enchanted weapon he made for the shop owner. Instead, Maddie asks for the rights to all the resources found in the kingdom's dungeons. The king grants Maddie's wish and says his reward is settled. Then he tells Matthias that the 4 magical chosen ones who were in the kingdom have all vanished. This means demons have been infiltrating the kingdom for centuries. The king tells him it seems like he's driven the demons away from their kingdom for now, and asks Maddie if the threat is gone. Maddie says that if unmasking one demon made all the chosen ones run, it's a sign they do not see any point in keeping up the act. Matthias predicts it will take the demons about 3 months to get their forces together and attack the kingdom. He tells the king they just need to cover the whole kingdom in a barrier before then, and use a class artifact to project a permanent one. He also advises the king to let them keep teaching wordless magic. And the king, having no other choice, puts all his trust in him. He makes Matthias the leader of the fight against the demons. So, Matty gets free access to the kingdom's archives. While he's looking around, he spots a sword that was found in some ancient ruins. He checks out the magic pattern on it and realizes it's one of the swords he made in his past life. He picks it up and notices it's even tougher than orichalcum, perfect for the barrier's core. He also finds a pendant from his past life that boosts the experience points you get. Matthias strolls around the training ground and sees that the students are getting way better at chantless magic. He's taking the time to level up humanity before he can focus on making himself super strong. Luri and Alma run up to Matty with some news they got from the headmaster. He tells them he's about to head to a dungeon to get the materials he needs. He remembers it's always better to have a party in dungeons, so he kind of shyly asks them to join his. They're like, "Are you sure we will not just hold you back?" Since they also want to get stronger. Alma is pretty bad with swords, but she's a natural with a bow. Matty tells her that bows are awesome for magical combat, and shows her how by infusing an arrow with magic. He explains that it's a simple magic enchant and encourages her to try it, telling her she has the Crest of Standard, which is perfect for magical archery. They both agree to join his party, hoping they can learn more about enchantments. Matty sees the party as a really well-balanced team, him on the front line, Alma backing him up from a distance, and Luria providing support from the rear. They go to a dungeon door underneath the academy. As they go in, Matty explains how the environment and monster strength change on every floor, with the ground floor being the weakest. He picks out a small monster for them to practice on, and teaches Alma how to infuse magic into her arrow. He even shows her a cool trick to change her arrow's path in mid-air. This skill is called a thread-guided enchant. Magistones pop up whenever monsters are killed, and Matty tells Alma to try taking out 2 monsters with 1 shot. While Alma goes off to train, Matty teaches Luri how to make her own weapons. He gives her some crude dungeon ore to practice with. Her job is to refine it and get the metal out for the weapons. After going through the whole refining process, she gets pure clusters of iron and mithril, which she uses to forge a weapon. Meanwhile, Alma can now kill 3 monsters at once with her arrows, so she decides to head back. When she gets there, she's totally shocked to see how much progress Luri has made. She's smashing down walls with enchanted swords she made herself. Matty tells them they're heading down to the 10th floor to test how much they've learned. On the 10th floor, they immediately run into a bunch of snail monsters. Luri tries to hit them first with a wide fire attack, but it does nothing. Alma tries next with her arrow, and ends up taking all of them out. Alma and Luri turn out to be a great team, with Luri creating arrows for Alma to fire at the monsters. Matty's pendant absorbs the magic power from the defeated monsters to boost the experience points for his party. Suddenly, a huge killer dog appears, and Matty warns them to be careful, because these things are way stronger than the monsters they've fought so far. Luri and Alma team up and manage to take down the killer dog. Matty suggests they set up camp by creating a barrier to make a safe rest area. He does this by infusing a magistone with his magic. He tells them to rest there while he goes to the lower floors to get the adamantite he needs for the big barrier. He says he's going down to the 25th floor, and Alma is stunned. And the deepest anyone has ever gone in this dungeon is the 23rd floor. She tells him the only ones to do it were a legendary 30-person party protected by Gaius, a magic being. When Matty hears her mention his old name, he wonders if she's making a mistake. Matty heads down to the deeper floors and finds the rock containing the adamantite. He then senses a super powerful monster nearby the floor boss. He ends up fighting this massive serpent that breathes toxic fumes. Matty slashes at the arc serpent, but it has no effect. So, he uses a little trick. He shatters a magistone, gathers all the fragments onto his blade, and then cuts down the serpent with it. The wave of power from the attack was so huge that even the demons on other floors felt it. He walks back up to his party members and casually tells them he slayed a monster. Matty's crew heads over to a guild to sell all the awesome loot they snagged from the dungeon. But get this, the second they walk in, everyone starts staring because, hello, they're from the legendary 2nd Academy. The lady at the counter spots the crest of failure on Matty's hand and totally assumes he's just their luggage boy. Big mistake. Matty then slams the head of the arc serpent right on her desk and is like, "Yeah, we'd like to sell this." The attendant absolutely loses her mind seeing a giant snake head just sitting there. So, Matty takes it outside, and the attendant's jaw drops when she sees him casually use a storage spell. Then, he pulls out this massive magistone to sell, and it's not just the attendant who's shocked, his own party members are staring in disbelief. The attendant is freaking out, saying this thing could basically be a national treasure. Matty just shrugs it off, explaining he got it from the arc serpent, and that it's actually not even big enough for what he really needs it for, which is the barrier. The attendant is just like, I'm not even sure our guild has enough money to buy all this. They end up walking away with a sweet 750 gold coins. Maddie, being the cool dude he is, suggests they split it 3 ways, even though normally you'd split loot based on who did what. But then, suddenly, Maddie feels something is seriously wrong. He tells the girls they need to book it back to the academy. Like, right now, the girls feel it too, a powerful magical aura closing in. They quickly figure out that 2 demons are on a direct course for the second academy. And just like that, 2 demons named Ashril and Deshril show up at the school. They're here to see what Maddie's made of, especially after he took down Devilis. Maddie immediately sizes them up and tells the girls to handle the weaker one. They're shaking in their boots because, they're demons, and everyone knows how crazy strong they are. But Maddie gives them a little pep talk, and they agree to the plan. Ashril is all talk, saying he's gonna start with some big spell from above. But before he can even finish his sentence, bam, Maddie is right in his face, swinging his sword. Maddie's first hit doesn't do any damage to the other demon, Deshril, and he realizes he's gonna need some serious power-ups to win this. Ashril blasts a direct hit at Maddie, but our boy just dodges the flame attack like it's nothing. Since Maddie's running low on magic, he decides to pull a pro-gamer move and straight up hijack his enemy's spell. He uses Ashril's own fire against him, but Ashril manages to shake it off almost instantly. That's when Luri steps up, firing 2 enchanted arrows at Deshril to mess with his magic and slow him down. Seeing this, Ashril tells Deshril to go deal with the girls while he handles Maddie, which is exactly what Maddie wanted to happen. Ashril prepares this huge spell that would totally wreck Maddie's control, but right before he can unleash it, Maddie zaps the weak point in the magic circle and cancels the whole thing. He rushes Ashril, and they get into an epic sword fight. It's not even a contest. Maddie is just on another level and completely overpowers him. Ashril tries to use a flight spell to escape, but nope, Maddie already has total control over his casting. Just as Maddie is about to charge in for the finish, Ashril pulls out a hidden, point-blank range spell. They clash again, but Maddie uses an occlusion orb to knock Ashril right out of the sky. The demon gets back up though, and tries to use a last-ditch spell to trade his life for a whole horde of monsters. But Maddie is way ahead of him, sealing the spell and finishing Ashril for good. Meanwhile, Luri and Alma are holding their own, buying time by constantly messing with the other demon's magic flow. Maddie swoops in to end it, using what looks like light of death magic. It's actually just a simple light spell he made to look like the real deal, since he doesn't have enough power for the original. Deshril sees he's toast and tries to make a run for it, but Maddie yells at Alma to shoot an arrow and disrupt him. She does, and Maddie swoops in, slices off the demon's wings, and takes him down. Everyone who saw it is completely stunned that a bunch of students just defeated 2 demons. Before anyone can react, Maddie grabs the girls and uses a movement spell to get them out of there. Later, Maddie's party and Eduard meet up with the king, who is super impressed and congratulates them. He tells Maddie he can have anything he wants, and Maddie just asks for more dungeons to conquer. The king is like, "You got it, I'll find you as many as I can." He then asks Luri and Alma what they want, and they both just ask for money, with Alma saying you can never have too much. But then, Maddie notices something weird. He feels like they're being watched by a demon, even though no one's physically there. He calls out the demon but gets no answer. So, Maddie casts a spell that electrocutes the invisible spy, forcing him to scream. The king hears the voice and recognizes it as Erhard, the former captain of the Mage's order. Maddie explains that Erhard was using a fixed magical interface to eavesdrop on them. He managed to hurt him, but couldn't finish him off. Maddie then describes a specific location from the palace, asking the king if it's special, because he felt a reaction from that area when he destroyed the interface. The king tells him it's the site of a village that was destroyed by demons a long time ago. Maddie puts 2 and 2 together and figures out that's the demons' hideout. He suggests they go pay them a visit. But there's a problem. The village is so far away it would take half a year to get there normally, and Maddie's teleportation spell can't take them that far because of his crest. Back at the academy, the headmaster orders all the students to gather materials for the barrier, wanting it done before Maddie and his crew get back. Speaking of, Maddie's party is heading out to take on the demons. He takes them to some remote spot in the mountains to negotiate with a legendary darkness dragon named Iris. He tells the girls to hang back while he goes in to talk. Turns out, Iris was one of the dragons who fought Maddie in his past life as Gaius, but she surrendered early, so he let her live. Iris doesn't recognize Maddie in his new body and tries to attack him. Maddie just uses a disruption spell to stop her dead in her tracks, which totally blows her mind. She's even more shocked that he can speak the dragon language. He explains that he's the reincarnation of Gaius, and she immediately starts apologizing, saying it was all a huge misunderstanding. He tells her he needs to get to some demons far away, and asks if she can give them a ride. Iris says she can't because her wings are messed up. So, Maddie just casually fixes her wings and tells her to keep his reincarnation a secret. He calls Luri and Alma over to meet the dragon. Iris picks them up and they take off. While they're flying, Maddie tells her to fly as fast as a human can handle. Iris thinks of Gaius's old friend, the being of swords, and is about to go full speed, but Maddie quickly tells her to slow it way, way down. So, they finally arrive at the demon village. The second they get there, Maddie takes out the first demon he sees. He senses two more. One is Erhard, and the other is even stronger than Ashril was. Iris, who hasn't flown in ages, has a rough time landing and basically crash lands. As they enter the village, Maddie uses a telepathy spell so they can all talk with their minds for better coordination in battle. He tells the girls they're on offense this time and gives them a casting circle. Suddenly, Maddie detects an enemy using a concealment spell and tells everyone to freeze. He asks them if they sense any spot that's completely empty of magic. Luri points to a corner where she can't feel anything. She complains that she can't find the other demon, but Maddie tells her not to worry about it. He then uses a disruption spell to reveal Erhard, and Alma immediately fires an arrow at him. But then, Eduard shows up out of nowhere and breaks the arrow, sneering that little arrows can't hurt a demon. He taunts Maddie, asking why he isn't attacking, and figures he must be a fake because the real Maddie was just in the capital and couldn't possibly have gotten here so fast. Erhard charges at Maddie, who easily locks him down while Alma keeps peppering him with arrows. The arrows start to take effect, and Erhard feels himself getting sluggish. Desperate, Erhard powers up and uses his ultimate move, Disfortune, a skill that trades his lifespan for a massive boost in power and strength. The newly buffed Erhard goes after Luri and Alma, but it turns out he's just chasing an illusion Maddie created. While he's distracted, Alma lands the final blow with her arrow, defeating Erhard for good. With one demon down, Maddie tells the girls to head back outside and wait with Iris. He's going in deeper to face the last demon all by himself. Maddie crushes 3 Magistones, flooding the air with magic. This totally messes with the atmosphere and forces a demon to show its true form. The demon's all like, "Yo, I'm on a whole other level than that Erhard guy," and Maddie just fires back, "I know, but I am not planning on dying today." The demon lunges at Maddie, but our boy easily defends himself. Then, bam, the demon slices off Maddie's right hand, the one he holds his sword with, and strolls right up to him. He gets all smug, telling Maddie it is pretty much over and that he will grant him a merciful death. But Maddie's just like, "Nah, I do not plan on dying for at least a few thousand years." Just then, his analysis of the demon finishes up. He casually reattaches his arm after hitting it with a recovery spell. Good as new. Maddie immediately goes on the offensive, hitting the monster with the same nasty toxin he used on Erhard. The demon pulls out a crazy move called Magic Circuit Overclock, which is kinda like the Disfortune spell, but way more advanced, though it has a lower chance of killing the user. But Maddie is ready for it, and casts a spell that completely nullifies the overclock, forcing the demon back into its misty form. The demon tries another trick, a spell that turns anything it touches into mist, but Maddie just cancels it out again. He lets the demon know that his earlier analysis gave him all the countermeasures he needed. Checkmate. The demon just explodes, and where it stood, a massive dragon vein pillar is revealed. So, these dragon vein pillars are basically giant conduits of magic power that run through the earth. And judging by the spell carved into this one, the demon's master plan is to summon a massive horde of monsters. They were going to tap into the dragon vein and unleash the horde right on top of the capital. The explosion Maddie caused actually shifted the spell's target about 10 kilometers away from the city, which is good, but they are still going to need the Academy's help to deal with it completely. So they all head back to the capital. Iris uses a cool spell that transforms demons back into humans. Maddie gives Erhard's horns back to Eduard, who jokes that Maddie's reward is probably going to empty the king's entire treasury. Maddie tells Eduard he wants to talk about something else. He asks if Iris can transfer into the academy. Eduard says he will give her a shot, but she has to take the transfer exam and score at least a 47 out of 50. Maddie is super confident the test will be no sweat for Iris, but he offers to watch over the exam, just in case. Maddie decides not to tell Eduard about the dragon vein pillar and the monster horde just yet, because he does not want to cause a huge panic. He figures he will tell him after Iris's exam is over. He draws a pattern on Iris's hand that looks a lot like the crest the first demon he fought had. And then, Iris completely bombs the written exams. Whoops. Next up is the practical exam. Iris finds herself facing Guile, the captain of the Knight's Order. The second their swords clash, Iris's sword goes flying. She runs to pick it up, but Guile yells at her not to turn her back on an enemy. He swings at her, but she just catches his sword with her bare hand and tells him to hold on a second. Guile is just stunned, wondering how strong she is, as she lifts him up by his own sword and then just bats him away. He goes flying and smashes into the roof of a nearby tower. During the casting exam, Iris looks at the 5 targets and tells Eduard they are way too small. She fires off an attack, but it zips right past the targets and heads straight for the people watching behind her. Maddie has to throw up a magic shield to protect everyone. Iris tries again, but misses a second time, with her attack just blowing up in midair. On her third try, Maddie already has his shield up around everyone, which is a good thing, because this time Iris blows up the entire field. Maddie turns to Eduard and asks for his verdict. Eduard just calls Iris a bizarre girl, and then passes her. And later, Maddie asks the principal how they are doing on getting the materials for the barrier. The principal tells him it is going super slow because they do not have enough students with the Crest of Glory. He explains that most of the kingdom's Crest of Glory users are all enrolled at the First Academy. Maddie suggests they just ask the First Academy for help, but Eduard says that is going to be tough since the two schools totally do not get along. He tells Maddie he will ask the king to step in, considering how serious the situation is. So, Eduard summons the headmaster of the First Academy on the king's orders, and the First Academy's headmaster is furious about being called in, acting like he is way above the headmaster of the Second Academy. He brags that his school has way more Crest of Glory users, but Eduard tells him to cut the act so they can talk business. He explains it is about the massive barrier they are building to keep the demons out. He asks the headmaster to lend them his Crest of Glory users to help refine the ore, but the headmaster instantly refuses. He says he cannot stand the idea of his precious students working with the Second Academy. Eduard reminds him that it is about time he re-evaluated his old-fashioned views on the Crests, especially after how the Second Academy proved themselves in the inter-school competition. But the headmaster just retorts that the match results were nullified because of the demon interference. Eduard fires back, reminding him that the demon was a student from his academy. That's when Maddie steps in. He suggests they just redo the competition, and the loser has to do whatever the winner wants. The headmaster of the First Academy agrees, but adds one condition: Maddie and his party are not allowed to participate. Maddie just says that is fine by him. The competition is set for 2 days from now, and Maddie is dead set on shutting the First Academy up for good. The First Academy went all out for this competition. Maddie had a backup plan to send in Iris if any of them seemed dangerous, but he did not sense any demons among them. The First Academy brings their absolute best Crest of Glory students, while the Second Academy only puts up 5 students against their huge team. The competition starts, and while the First Academy students are still chanting their long spells, the Second Academy students blast them away with their wordless casting, wiping them out completely. The First Academy headmaster refuses to accept the results, screaming that the Second Academy's students are beasts. Eduard calmly tells him the king himself ordered them to switch to wordless casting and asks why the First Academy is still using old-school incantations. The headmaster goes on a rant, saying he must protect the kingdom's educational principles from the pathetic crests of failure and mediocre crests of standard, even if it means disobeying the king. Right on cue, the king, who was watching from above, speaks up. "You would dare do such a thing?" he asks. He orders the royal guards to seize the headmaster and commands all the First Academy students to start working with the Second Academy, receive education in wordless casting, and help with the barrier plan. With that settled, Maddie and his party go off to find the magistone they need for the core of the barrier. They need a 60-centimeter one, and Maddie says it should not be too hard to find. He casually mentions that since Iris is a dragon, she probably has a magistone bigger than 80 centimeters inside her, but he is not about to take hers. He tells them the other way to get one is to summon a powerful monster. Alma and Luri are doing great, taking down different wolves and really getting the hang of things. Iris, on the other hand, still has terrible control over her power. The girls cannot believe they are already on the 17th floor of the dungeon. Iris tells them that someone she used to know made it all the way to the 654th floor. Of course, she's talking about Maddie in his past life. Maddie tells Luri to create a casting circle around a magistone while they get ready to summon the monster. He tells Iris to infuse the magistone with magic, warning her to do it slowly because too much could cause a disaster. But Iris is Iris. She pumps a ton of magic into the stone way too fast, and they end up summoning a monster that is way beyond what this floor can handle. The monster can easily give them 60-centimeter magistone. Iris launches the first attack, but she gets batted away. Maddie asks her if she could talk down the monster, and she calls the dragon a winged lizard and tells it to just die. The dragon replies that it would kill her, so he starts to attack her. Calling a dragon a winged lizard is the most offensive thing one can say. Maddie tells Iris to keep drawing the dragon's attention while Alma fires her arrows at it. Maddie sets casting circles on many magistones. When the dragon notices Alma and Luri, Maddie tells Iris to protect them, and she does just that by punching the dragon's face. The dragon smashes Iris into the ground when she thinks she can parry its attack from above. Maddie tells her not to block every hit. She tells him that it is weird that the dragon hasn't used dragon's breath yet, and Maddie tells her that he's using his magic to block it. Dragons have tough skin that can't be penetrated with arrows, and are not vulnerable to the toxins Maddie used on the demons. Maddie has the choice of telling Iris to turn to a dragon to fight this dragon, but it would put a lot on her shoulders, considering that she can't control her powers properly. The method Maddie currently employs with the magistones and the magic circles is the safest way to beat the dragon. Maddie tells Iris to make the dragon use its dragon's breath. She provokes the dragon and forces it to use its dragon's breath. Maddie activates his magic, which uses the dragon's breath, and inverts its direction, and attributes to destroy the dragon with its spell. Iris falls as she tries to escape from the dragon's attack, but Maddie saves her. The dragon is successfully defeated by its attack, and they get the Magistone. Maddie asks Iris if she would like to join their party officially. Iris accepts, and the girls rejoice. At the school's training ground, Maddie totally wrecks a part of the school grounds to help Iris get used to her human body. She's running on uneven ground and takes a massive fall, but Maddie says it's to help her with her muscle memory. So, they start her training by having her run around with a shell on her head, while Alma tries to shoot it off. Luri's training is to make equipment for Maddie so she can level up her enchantments. Maddie teaches her how to layer different materials to forge a blade, and she totally gets it. They test out the new gear she made, and everything turns out to be super powerful. Maddie hands Iris the spear Luri made, and she uses it on a giant boulder, completely obliterating it. Maddie's party is training hard at the school, and he's dead set on leaving the school if his plans go off without a hitch. Over at the academy, Edgeard is addressing all the students from the first and second academies. He's talking about the start of a huge operation to cover the entire royal capital in a barrier. He says Maddie is going to be busy with the barrier, so he wants the wordless casters to handle defending the capital. He pumps them all up, telling them to give it their all as they kick off the mission. Suddenly, the communication team detects some demonic casting, and Maddie tells them it's probably a demonic transportation spell called Magirode. The girls think their plans might have been leaked to the demons, but Maddie shuts that idea down. He asks Luri and Alma to take care of it, and they are on it. When they get to the scene, Alma reminds Luri that Maddie said when the magic power starts swelling up, it is a sure sign that demons are on their way. Maddie had already told Luri to make special metal arrows for Alma to use against the demons, and he let her figure out what spells to imbue them with all on her own. He told her how important it is to be able to read the situation on the fly in a real fight. Luri whips up some special arrows for Alma that look seriously sturdy. A demon breaks through into their dimension, but Alma shoots it down with just one of her enchanted arrows. Boom! Another demon pops in, and Alma fires at it, but this one actually dodges. Not a problem, though, because Luri swoops in and takes it down with her sword. Then they feel a massive magical surge coming from the capital, and decide they need to head back, like, now. Maddie tells them the surge is exactly what he expected. It's a more advanced version of Magirode that sacrifices a demon for long-range travel. But since demons have zero self-sacrifice spirit, they probably just tossed the weakest one in their group to the wolves. Luri asks Maddie what's next, and he tells her the demons will probably appear right above the second academy. He needs the girls to buy him some time because he is not done with the barrier yet. The two of them head out, and Maddie can't help but notice how much bolder the girls have gotten. Just then, Iris shows up and drops off a whopping 40 boxes of mithril for Maddie. Alma and Luri meet up with Edgeard on the battlefield, and he shows them a bunch of magistones for casting circles that Maddie left for Luri. This way, she does not have to worry about messing up. All of a sudden, massive magic readings are detected right above the academy, and a demon named Belias tears his way into their dimension. He sees all the students and the headmaster, and launches a huge fire attack at them, but they throw up a defense spell and block it. The students with standard and lesser crests launch their own attacks, but none of them can even reach Belias. This dude is on another level. He even catches Alma's arrow right before it hits him. Alma looks over at Luri, who is busy making some super complicated enchantments. She just needs Alma to buy her a little more time. Belias fires another, even bigger attack at them, taunting them about how wide the power gap is between them, even though they have learned wordless casting. But they hold their ground against Belias's onslaught. Luri keeps failing, but on her very last piece of Magistone, she gives it everything she's got. She creates one insane enchanted arrow that Alma fires right at Belias. The arrow pierces straight through the demon's chest from behind, giving the students the opening they needed. The other students all jump in and attack the weakened demon, finishing it off. Just when they think it is over, another demon appears, looking a little surprised that they actually took out Belias. Then, more demons fill the sky and launch a massive attack on the students. They try to defend themselves, but it is too much. Alma gets back up, swearing she will use her last arrow to buy Maddie more time. Luri enchants the final arrow, and Alma gets ready to fire. The demons are just casually chatting among themselves, making a game out of who can kill the most humans. But right as one of them is about to strike, Maddie arrives and slays him in an instant. He starts tearing through the demons, taking all of them out with the awesome sword Luri made for him. Edgeard is blown away, commending him for taking down all those demons. Maddie's already got the hole for the barrier dug out while Iris and the crew are handling everything else. Once they're all set, Maddie tosses in the Magistone, and bam, the barrier over the capital springs to life. But hold up, Maddie tells them they are not even close to being done. There are still a ton of monsters to take down because of that spell. The demons whipped up before summoning them. Edgeworld explains to the students that the barrier only protects the capital, not the surrounding towns, so they've got to stop all the monsters out there. A massive swarm of monsters starts charging the capital, but they all end up falling into the traps and magic gadgets Maddie's party set up. These second academy students have gotten way stronger, so they're not about to lose to some low-level chumps. Suddenly, Iris spots 3 huge monsters, and Edgeworld yells for the students to fall back. It's time for Maddie and his party to take the stage. The girls start taking down the monsters like total pros, while Maddie's got his eyes on an even more powerful baddie. This thing called a Void Eater shows up, and it's devouring all the other monsters around it to get bigger. Maddie actually lets it happen, just letting it absorb all the monsters in the area. When the Void Eater is just about done bulking up, Maddie gives Luri a pattern to carve into a Magistone for them to chuck at it. Once she's done with the inscription, Luri yeets the Magistone right into the Void Eater's mouth. Maddie throws in a few more Magistones for good measure, and the monster gobbles them all up. The creature finally takes its full form, and Maddie just tells the girls to attack like they normally would. Alma and Luri let loose a volley of arrows, and Iris goes straight for the monster's feet while Maddie dives in for a direct attack. He leaps in to stab its eyes and uses a special magic enchantment to slice off its legs, but the thing just regenerates them instantly, so Maddie just keeps hammering it with all of his enchantment spells, and then unleashes a spell that will last until either he or the enemy runs out of magic. This spell keeps launching attack after attack, piercing through different parts of the monster's body until it finally hangs its head down. With one final slash, Maddie cuts its neck and takes the monster down for good. After all that action, Maddie decides it is time to check out the dungeons outside the capital, leaving the academy to go survey some dragon veins. The next day, Edgeworld offers Maddie a full scholarship. This way, the school can take credit for his achievements, and it also makes it easier for the school and the whole nation to step in if he ever gets into serious trouble. Maddie's like, yeah, okay, and takes the offer. But when Luri hears he's leaving, she gets super sad. Seeing this, the headmaster offers scholarships to the rest of the party too, if they want them. And of course, they accept. Later, a boy on a wagon sees Maddie's crew walking down the road. He asks if they're adventurers, and they're like, you guessed it, the party is heading towards the Melkia dungeon, which is this gigantic dungeon with hundreds of floors. Iris and Maddie are totally shocked to hear that people build entire cities over dungeons these days. There was nothing like that back in their time. To get to Melkia, they could go around the forest of Chikiri Subia, but that would take several days. Or, they could cut straight through the forest and get there in about half a day. The catch? The forest is a monster den, and there are rumors about a super smart monster showing up there lately. The idea of a smart monster gets Maddie all curious, so he decides they are going through the forest. Luri and Alma are not feeling it, but Iris tells them not to worry. She can always just fly them out of there if things get hairy. Maddie has to remind her that her wings are still healing, so her flying is a bit limited. They decide to take a quick break midway through the forest, and Maddie heads off to hunt for some dinner. The second he leaves the group, he senses a whole bunch of monster magic signatures coming right for him. The weird part is, the monsters are moving in a super orderly way, like they're being commanded by someone. Maddie spots a hidden magic signature among them, and figures that has to be the smart monster. The smart monster attacks Maddie, but in the end, he brings it back to the group as the catch of the day. Luri identifies it as a wisdom monkey, a monster famous for being crazy smart. Then, Maddie brings out a huge bull-like monster for them to cook up since everyone's starving. Luri uses her magic to pull iron from the ground and shape it into a pot and other cooking stuff, while Iris chops up some firewood. Alma offers to gather some local plants to make a soup. After chowing down on a delicious meal, they get ready to continue their journey. Maddie figures the forest monsters are too scared to come near them now, thanks to Iris being a dragon and him beating the wisdom monkey. The party uses this chance to book it to Melkia, reaching the city just before sundown. When they arrive at the dungeon city of Melkia, the party notices the place is way less lively than they expected. They walk up to a magical lamppost, but see something is really off about how the magic is flowing. Normally, magic gear is powered by Magistones, but this lamppost looks like it's been sloppily tapped directly into a dragon's vein. A guy nearby warns them to get away from the lamppost, saying it's already exploded and killed at least 10 people this year alone. And right after he says that, it explodes again. Luri goes over to the guy, who turns out to be a store owner, and asks him why they would make something so dangerous. He tells her they have no choice. It was the Lord's orders. The new king stopped them from using Magistones, claiming they were the region's most precious export. Maddie asks if this new king is the reason the town is so dead, and the store owner confirms it. He tells the party that a powerful monster appeared down on the 10th floor, and the king ordered most of the adventurers to go deal with it. Maddie buys 4 apples for the group, and they decide to head to the guild first. On the way, He can't help but notice how bad the quality of all the equipment for sale is. Before they can even think about entering the dungeon, they need to get a permit from the guild. So, Maddie's party heads over, but the guild attendant actually advises them not to get a permit. She explains that the permits are not issued by the guild, but by the king himself. As long as they're in Melkia, they'll have to do whatever the king says. Missions, from dungeon exploring to monster hunting, only come once a month and always end with tons of casualties. Maddie ignores the warning and applies for 4 permits anyway. The moment he does, a lady bursts in, screaming that they have a huge number of injuries from a monster attack and they can't keep up. She desperately asks if anyone knows healing spells, and Maddie raises his hand. They're taken to a place packed with injured people. Maddie immediately realizes the city can't even afford basic medical care, which is insane for a dungeon city full of adventurers. He asks why there are so few healers, and someone tells him there used to be plenty, but the king fired them all, calling them a waste of money. Maddie goes to heal a man but gets stopped by some guy with an attitude. The man demands to know what Maddie thinks he's doing, but Maddie just ignores him and continues healing. He heals the man right there on the spot, and then starts giving orders to his party and everyone else around. He tells them to do exactly as he says, starting with the most critical patients. He has everyone cast healing spells in order of urgency. Maddie uses a special type of healing that works best with his Crest of Failure, closing blood vessels to stop bleeding, healing damaged organs, and then sealing the wounds. He tells everyone that if they work together, they can save all the injured people, and they do just that, healing every single person. Afterward, Maddie asks about the previous king. He'd heard the old king was great, but he was replaced by this totally incompetent one. They tell him the previous king just died suddenly in his sleep, with no explanation. Thinking about how the demons have been messing with things, Maddie starts to suspect that the old king was actually killed by demons, and the new king might even be a demon himself. That night, Maddie writes a letter to the headmaster to pass along to the king. He writes a fake letter first, just talking about homework, and hides the real, important letter in a false bottom of the delivery box to make sure it gets past any inspections. Alma asks him if it would not be faster to just deliver the letter himself. He tells her it would, but he wants to see what is going on in the dungeon first. He tells them all to get a good night's rest, so they can check out the dungeon the next day. But Maddie and Luri can't sleep, since it's their first night traveling out together. While Iris and Alma are sleeping soundly, the two of them just lie there counting monsters to try and fall asleep, staying awake all the way until morning. The next morning, Maddie tells Iris that she almost used her dragon's breath in her sleep earlier and could have blown the inn away. They get to the dungeon gate and it's just iron, one that a monster could break through easily. Iris opens the door and they all go in. Iris defeats a powerful monster and they take its head back to the guild. The attendant was shocked to see the head of the powerful monster from the previous day lying at her front. She asks how they did it, and Maddie tells her that they did it the normal way, but he didn't get involved this time. She tells him that she can buy it, but they wouldn't get paid immediately as the king has to first confirm it. The woman writes her report and Maddie uses projection magic to see what she is writing. He sees that she writes 3 girls to be beasts, and him to be a healer. She concludes that he didn't participate in the battle due to being a healer. Maddie asks if he can get gold for the rest of the monsters, and it surprises the attendant that there are more. So, the party decides to use some of their reward money to grab a nice dinner. On the way home though, Maddie spots some guys trailing them. He's like, "Yup, knew it." He figures the king must have gotten nervous and sent his goons, so he's ready to find out who these clowns are. Maddie suddenly takes a different route back to the inn, and then he hits up the girls with a telepathy spell to chat inside their heads. He tells them to chill out, letting them know they've got some of the king's flunkies on their tail. Maddie's plan is simple. He tells them to cast a concealment spell and just watch the guys following them to see what they do. He says if they get aggressive, the girls have a green light to take them down. So, they pop up right in front of the stalkers, pretending they're lost. One of the guys points them toward their inn, and then it hits him. Whoops, they totally messed up. The stalkers try to grab Maddie, who just plays along with them. Alma's like, "So, what do you guys want with us?" The leader starts running his mouth, telling her everything he thinks he knows about them, including how Maddie is just the party's healer. He laughs, saying from now on, they're all going to be serving his lord. That's when Maddie tells Iris, "No weapons, just knock them all out." And just like that, Iris does exactly as she's told. While they're all unconscious, Maddie slaps a demon-detecting tracking spell on every single one of them, because he's got a hunch they're working with demons. The next morning, back at the inn, Maddie gets a letter from the king and tells his crew to follow him outside. They meet up with Ecchi in a secret spot, where the king can't spy on them. Ecchi has the reply to Maddie's letter about the king of Melkia exploiting the dungeon city. He tells him that by the king's decree, Lord Dokiel Melkia is to be arrested, with royal proxy Ike overseeing the whole thing. Maddie and the girls are totally down to help arrest this Dokiel guy. Maddie tells Ecchi he already put a tracking spell on Dokiel's men, so he knows exactly where their boss is hiding. Turns out, Dokiel is holed up in a heavily guarded estate on the edge of town. Ake asks if he should call in the knights for backup, but Maddie's like, nah, we got this. He's confident his party can handle it alone. They get to the estate and find the front gate shut tight, which is super weird for the middle of the day. Maddie uses his magic to sense everyone inside and realizes the king is beefing up his defenses. Ake wonders if they somehow found out about their plan, and Maddie confirms it. Ake suggests they should fall back, but Maddie's not having it. He tells him they're sticking to the plan. They bust into the house and get swarmed by the king's minions, but Luri just parries every single attack. Maddie tells her to leave the rest to him, and then zap, he electrocutes all the guards in the building. King Dokiel Melchia's room is supposed to be on the second floor, but Maddie's detection magic tells him nobody's up there. They're all in the basement. Maddie quickly finds the entrance to a secret basement hidden behind some picture frames and opens the hidden staircase. Down below, King Dokiel Melchia notices things have gone way too quiet and asks his attendant if the intruders have been dealt with. The guy basically says they'd have heard something if they had. Dokiel can't believe his men could have been taken out so fast, but he decides to play it safe and tells them to use the secret passage to get to the surface. Just then, Maddie walks in and ruins their escape. Dokiel is stunned to see a kid in his secret basement and asks his attendant what's going on. Maddie introduces himself and calls in the rest of his party. Dokiel sees his chance and tries to ambush Maddie with his men, but Maddie just knocks them all out instantly. Royal Proxy Ake places Dokiel Melchia under arrest, and Dokiel starts threatening them, saying they'll regret it if anything bad happens to him. Maddie just knocks him out cold, and Ake takes him back to the capital for questioning. Maddie tells Ake he has other stuff to deal with, like figuring out how they knew about the raid. He spots a letter on Dokiel's desk that details the plan to arrest him, and they wonder who sent it. Maddie sees faint magic traces on the letter and follows them back to a demon. He figures the demons are after the dragon vein in the dungeon because it's way bigger than the one in the capital. Ake is about to rush off and report this, but a massive earthquake shakes the whole place. Maddie tells them the demons have already started messing with the dragon vein. Based on the magic signature, they know the demons have just spawned a massive monster horde, and it's heading straight for them. Maddie says they have to get the demons away from the dragon vein, and fast. If they don't stop them, all of Melchia is toast. They have 2 hours to get into the dungeon and handle business before the horde arrives. Inside the dungeon, the place is eerily empty, like a huge trap has been set. Maddie points Iris to a specific spot and tells her to dig, saying it will lead them straight to the dragon vein. Once there, Luri senses a demonic vibe around it. Maddie explains it's something the demons set up in the dragon vein a long time ago, and now they're just adding the finishing touches. Luri asks if they can stop them, and Maddie lays out the plan. They'll split into 2 teams. He'll head to the floor where the demons are hiding and attack them directly. Meanwhile, the girls will work on stopping whatever the demons are doing to the dragon vein and restoring it to normal. He puts Luri in charge of that team, and he also reveals he rigged the dragon vein with a short-range communication circle so they can all talk to each other from anywhere in the dungeon. Maddie checks in with Luri, who's trying to get the dragon vein back to normal. He warns her to be super careful because one wrong move could blow up the whole town. Meanwhile, Maddie is tearing through demons. With just 1 hour left before the horde hits, Maddie finally confronts the main demon who's manipulating the dragon vein. He suspects the demon is also using a communication spell, so he uses magic align to tap into their conversation. He hears another voice telling the demon that Maddie isn't the one messing with his spell. The voice thinks it's his companion, Luri, who's causing the disruption. The demon gets his orders: destroy Matthias and then finish off Luri. The boss tells the demon to fight smart and not to underestimate Maddie. They clash, and the demon blocks Maddie's first attack with a barrier that explodes on impact. The demon gets another order: finish Maddie before he breaks the barrier. A long fight is bad news for you. Maddie tells Luri to get casting circles 14 and 17 ready while he and the demon keep fighting. The demons have a plan specifically designed to fight someone with the crest of failure, attacking him from a long distance. After dodging all of the demon's attacks, they move on to phase 2, traps. Maddie pretends he's falling right into their trap. He tells Luri to activate the 14th casting circle first, which completely cancels out the traps. Then, he has her activate the 17th, which uses the dragon vein to jam all communications in the area. The demons are suddenly cut off. Maddie keeps hammering the demon's barrier, then charges in with his sword to shatter it. Just then, their communications come back online, and Maddie realizes the demon giving orders must be an old one, since it knows about his past life. The demon is ordered to use a spell called Disfortune, but Maddie dodges every single attack and finishes him off. At the same time, the monster horde heading for Melchia starts to vanish because Luri has successfully restored the dragon vein. Now, all they have to do is find the demon who was calling the shots. But then, the demon hacks into their communication spell and taunts Maddie, saying he'll never be able to trace him. But Maddie can sense the magic coming from a town several kilometers away called Alenia. He's pretty sure it's just a decoy, though. Iris is like, yo, are we seriously looking for the demon boss's secret hideout? And Maddie's all, yup, that's the plan. So they're like, But how are we even gonna do that? Maddie explains that the bad guy thought he was super clever, right? He tried to cut off their tracking ability by messing with the relay in Elenia. But get this, the transmission spell still left a little magical fingerprint from the caster. Maddie, being the genius he is, snagged that signature and tucked it away in a magistone. Now, here's the catch. They need some super old school tech, like thousands of years old, to actually trace that signature through the magistone and figure out where this dude is hiding. Maddie almost spills the beans about being Gaius. Talk about a plot twist, but Iris totally saves the day with a well-timed cough, and he snaps right back to business. Turns out, this ancient device is chilling out over at the Rodinia Alliance. With a little help from the king, they can totally waltz across the border without any drama. So for now, it's back to the capital. Iris, being Iris, starts grumbling, cause everyone else is already bailing while she's still trying to eat. Classic! The crew finally rolls into the capital and heads straight for the second academy. But, plot twist, their school building is just gone. They're all scratching their heads like, seriously, where'd it go? Their headmaster, Eduard, shows up and spills the tea. They're rebuilding the whole thing, making the walls super thick and slapping up a massive barrier to keep those pesky demons out. Turns out, classes are happening over at the first academy, and all the students are basically conscripted construction workers. Wild, right? Later, in Eduard's office, Maddie drops another bombshell. There's another demon pulling strings in the dungeon city, and they gotta cross the border to track him down. Eduard's like, which border are we talking here? And Maddie's like, the one with the Rodinia Alliance, duh. Eduard promises to put in a good word and get the guild on board, figuring the king will totally make this a priority now that demons are involved. But he also throws out a warning. Not all alliances are sunshine and rainbows, so watch their backs. Maddie, being the helpful dude he is, offers to lend a hand with the school construction while they wait for their travel papers. The headmaster is super thankful, but everyone immediately gets nervous when Iris chimes in, offering her help. Outside the office, Maddie and Lurie are brainstorming genius ideas to make the building materials way more efficient. Then, Iris tries to help, but of course, she trips, and the iron pipe she's holding totally wrecks a part of the building. Facepalm moment for sure. Good news, the king actually says yes, and Eduard hands them their super important border crossing permit. He also hooks them up with a king's voucher for the Rodinia Alliance, and with that, they're off. This is a huge deal for Lurie and Alma, cause it's their very first time leaving the Ice Kingdom. They're probably thinking, what even is this Rodinia Alliance place? But here's the major hurdle, the region where that ancient device is hiding. It's locked down tighter than a drum. The magical vibes there are so intense that everyone's legit scared a magical apocalypse could go down at any moment. Maddie fills the girls in on what Eduard told him. The only way they're getting in is if they crank up their adventurer rank. They gotta hit at least a rank to even sniff a restricted zone. So, Mission 1. Head to the Rodinia Adventurers Guild and ace their ranking test. And if that takes too long, Maddie's got a backup plan that sounds straight out of an anime. Summon a dark dragon over the restricted region as a distraction. Talk about thinking outside the box. Once they finally make it to the Rodinia Alliance, Maddie's like, first stop, the guild. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as they walk in, some dude immediately recognizes them. He explains that the King of Ice Kingdom hit up their guild for help, basically begging for international teamwork now that demons are going wild. Maddie, being Maddie, wastes no time and asks to take the Ascension test to get to a rank like yesterday. Normally, you gotta start at G rank and climb your way up, but because he's Maddie, they let him skip straight to the A rank test. Talk about VIP treatment, the test? A mock battle against a prearranged proctor who turns out to be Gilua's. Maddie instantly clocks Giluaz's super high magical signature. Seriously, it's so intense he could almost be mistaken for a demon. Turns out, Giluaz is a legendary S-rank adventurer who literally only cares about fighting. The original proctor apparently peaced out, so Giluaz just volunteered to step in. Classic Giluaz. Even though no one has ever passed a test with Giluaz as the proctor, Maddie, being the absolute mad lad, decides to go for it. Before the actual test kicks off, Giluaz just casually tells the girls they've passed and should just go home, while he points right at Maddie, basically saying, you and me, one-on-one. Turns out, Giluaz already knows Maddie's rep as the famous hero of the Ice Kingdom. Respect. And get this, Giluaz is a combat prodigy who has never ever lost a single one-on-one fight. Talk about high stakes. The evaluation exam starts, and Maddie asks for the rules. Giluaz is like, easy peasy, it's over when one of us gets knocked out or gives up. He also tells Maddie he doesn't use magic, just his trusty sword. But then, when Giluaz draws his sword, Maddie, being the magic pro, immediately notices a physique enhancement spell activating. Giluaz is unknowingly powered up. They go at it, full force. Giluaz is throwing down with these physique and enhancement spells, but he's totally clueless he's even using them. Insane. They're going toe-to-toe. Super intense. Giluaz, hyped up, tells Maddie not to hold back. And when Maddie actually stops holding back, Giluaz, the absolute beast, somehow adapts to Maddie's moves, even replicating them after fighting him just once. What even? But Maddie, ever the master, points out a flaw in Giluas's attack and then unleashes a massive, supercharged spell. Giluas tries to parry, but bam, he gets sent absolutely crashing into a wall. Ouch! Maddie follows up, points his sword right at him, and Giluas, for the first time ever, gives up. History made, folks. Giluas, totally mind-blown that he lost, asks Maddie how he can get that strong. Maddie, being the generous legend, hands him a book he wrote about spellcasting knowledge. What a flex. Giluas tries to read it, but he just doesn't get it. LOL. Maddie decides not to bother taking the S-rank test, even though he'd totally be the strongest in the entire land. Why? Because they only need a rank to get into the restricted territory, which is the Atelis Plains in the Phokia region. Giluas then gives them a heads up. He's heard the vibe in that region has totally changed lately. Checkpoints are way stricter all of a sudden, and parties are actually going missing on their way there. Sketchy. So, as they're heading to the Atelis Plains, they hit a checkpoint. After flashing their documents, they get these passes good for the main road. The girls are all like, wow, that was surprisingly easy. But Maddie, with his super sharp eyes, shows them the magical code hidden in the passes. And here's the creepy part. The coding tech is identical to demon tech. That means Phokia might be totally run by demons. Yikes. Looking ahead, they spot some visitors, who are clearly there to take them out before they even reach the city. Not ideal. Maddie, ever the strategist, decides to just put everyone to sleep instead of, fighting them all, to keep things quiet and avoid a huge scene. He tells Luri and Alma to sneak around behind them and use a magic item to knock them out, while he and Iris act as a distraction. Maddie conjures up some wild illusion spells to grab their attention. When the enemies start firing arrows, Maddie and Iris are like total pros, blocking every single one. An arrow even bounces right off Iris's body, and she gets super PO'd, ready to totally unleash on them. But Maddie quickly stops her, deflects the arrows, and reminds her, hey, no commotions, remember? Just then, Luri and Alma activate the magic item from behind, and poof, all the enemies just drop, fast asleep. Smooth. Okay, so here's a funny bit. Luri and Alma accidentally fall asleep from their own magic item. Maddie has to snap them out of it and wake them up. Luri's super embarrassed, apologizing to Maddie for conking out. Adorable. But then, Alma sees her face, and Iris has totally drawn all over it with ink. Alma goes ballistic, but Iris, of course, plays totally innocent. Classic Iris. Maddie, ever the responsible one, tells them, maybe check the magic item's effect range next time before you use it, okay? When they finally get to Phokia, the whole place is just super creepy. It feels like some dark, demonic magical vibe has taken over the city, and Maddie can sense over 30 faint magical signatures scattered everywhere. Maddie tells Luri that the reason the signatures feel so tiny is probably because the demons are actively hiding them. Sneaky, turns out. Phokia is crawling with demons. And while regular demons usually don't hang out in groups, dubbedAnimes are a whole other story. These dubbedAnimes are a rare offshoot of the demon race. They can't use spells, but they totally work in groups and fight like a well-oiled team. Maddie tells the girls that if these dubbedAnimes are running the city, then this is literally the worst possible situation he can imagine. Gulp. So, they decide to use a hidden passage for demons that Maddie somehow just knows about. This secret tunnel leads them straight to the city center, and is basically just like the city's sewer system. Gross, but effective. As they're trekking along, Maddie's detection spell picks up a demon just up ahead. They're all wondering what to do, but Maddie's like, chill, we're just gonna walk right past it. He whips out a stupefaction spell to temporarily make the demon totally spaced out, and they just waltz right on by. Smooth move. At the city center, the townspeople look like they are in some kind of trance. Maddie notices some strange magical signatures also, so he picks up a random person on the street and checks the spell that was cast on him. He tells the girls that it's called thought paralysis and is a type of stupefaction spell. At one point, all of the townspeople line up on their way into a factory and are being cast a thought paralysis spell by a demon. Maddie tells them that they would all have to go inside to check out what it is, so he casts a defense spell ahead that will nullify the thought paralysis spell. They act like they're under the spell, and they are allowed to go inside. Inside the factory looks like they're refining ore with far more advanced equipment on a larger scale of production. Maddie identifies the rock they're collecting to be Rankine magical ore, which can be used in explosives when they're refined. A ton of them can blow up an entire kingdom, but would take decades to gather that amount. Seeing a company like this with such a scale of production, Maddie wonders if there's a powerful demon with extensive knowledge of magical technology behind the whole process. Luri asks him what they should do now, and Maddie tells them that the factory is too dangerous to be left standing. The thought paralysis would harm the human brain with time, so this leaves them with no other choice than to take down the demons. The 32 dubbedAnimes are scattered around the city center, and there's a low probability of them getting scattered. Maddie plans to use the demons' teamwork against them. That night, the demons pick up an unknown magical signature over in Area 51. They immediately flip into their demon forms. Realizing it is a massive signature, they get orders to locate and take out the source at once and surround Area 51, but they do not see any sign of the enemy. They all gather around the area and come face to face with Iris. While the demons are all totally focused on Iris, Maddie starts cutting them down from behind. The demon leader is watching from a distance, but he cannot figure out what is going on over there. Maddie's plan was to mask Iris's tremendous magical signature when they first got to the city, and then unmask it all at once. The dubbedAnimes gather around her while he waits on standby. Luri and Alma's jobs are to scatter any demons that start clustering together. Luri, Alma, and Maddie will have to stay hidden and take out the demons one at a time. While the demons keep chasing after Iris, Maddie gives Luri and Alma a heads up that they are coming, then throws some magistones juiced up with a simple explosion spell at the demons. It distracts them, and Maddie takes them out from behind. dubbedAnimes are always connected through a shared consciousness, and this lets bad information spread super fast among them too. The demons start thinking the town has been rigged with all kinds of traps, so they are ordered to stay put and use detection spells to find them. Maddie tells Luri and Alma to use conceal magic to keep them from being spotted. When the demons do not detect any traps or intruders, they start moving around again, and Maddie and his crew keep taking them out in different parts of the city. The leader of the demons notices something is up, so he checks the body of one of the dead demons and picks up 2 magical signatures. He also figures out the demon was not killed by an explosion, but by a sword. He concludes that someone is hiding out there and ambushing them. He announces this to the other demons, and Maddie tells the girls they are going to have to fight the rest of them head-on. The leader of the demons is ready to purge the city of its intruders, even if it means they lose half of it. Just as one of the demons volunteers to go get the magic crystals from the factory, he gets taken out by Giluas. Maddie senses Giluas's arrival through his magical signature. Giluas takes down a few more demons, leaving just the leader. The leader is convinced Giluas has been behind all the killings, so he charges at him with his swords. Maddie takes out 2 of the demons surrounding Giluas, and Iris wipes out the remaining 4, leaving only the boss. Giluas and the boss demon keep attacking each other, and Giluas uses a magic spell to destroy the monster. Luri casts a healing spell on Giluas, but then the demon stands right back up with glowing red eyes and tries to attack them. Maddie blocks it. The demon's magical signature becomes way more powerful than before, and he gets a message from that demon he talked to earlier, who tells him he will soon destroy the seal and revive it completely. The demon turns to dust, and Maddie tells the girls that someone was using some seriously powerful magic to animate the corpse, but the body just could not handle it. The only one capable of a feat like that is the big boss controlling the demon back in the Melkia dungeon. All the commotion brings a crowd out to the town center, and with the defeat of the dubbedAnimes, the thought paralysis spell is lifted. Giluas steps forward to address the humans, introducing himself and taking full control of Fokia under the Emergency Authorization Act. This act lets a high-ranked adventurer temporarily take charge when the town leader is gone. He meets the foreman after looking for anyone in charge and appoints him as the provisional lord of Fokia. Giluas hands Maddie and his party a guild permit that allows them to enter Fokia's restricted area. He tells them he has to get back to his training because he cannot go around almost dying every time he slays one measly demon. Maddie and the girls make their way to the device they were originally after. The building looks like it came from some ancient magic super civilization, and Alma wonders what kind of technologies they used to make it. Turns out, the ruin is one that Maddie created in his past life. When they get to the top, Maddie tells Iris that the device is inside. They do not see any way in, so Iris asks if she can just break in, since her powers were back. Maddie tells her that she cannot break through it because he made it out of super sturdy materials. Luri catches what he just said about him making it, and he tries to cover it up by saying Iris might put a dent in it if she attacks it with everything she has. He tells them the correct way to open it is to infuse the pyramid with magical power. They do what he says, and it opens up automatically. They all use an enhanced physique spell before jumping down, since there is no staircase. While Maddie gets the device ready for activation, he tells them to go look around for anything they can use, since there might be old weapons or treasure scattered about. Luri finds a sword that Maddie created while he was pulling an all-nighter. The sword was just designed to look cool and nothing else. Alma finds a spear that is pretty heavy for her to carry, and Maddie tells her that Iris has enough magical power to wield it, but it could be dangerous because it is so hard to control. Iris finds some preserved foods from the ancients, and when she opens one, the smell knocks her out cold. The device is completely activated, and Maddie puts a part from the refinery in Fokia inside it to analyze, so they can track down the person who gave the refining tech to the demons. It spits out data from the magical analysis, and Maddie notices a demonic signature in there. Just as he had suspected, the signature happens to be the same as the demon giving orders to the other demon in the dungeon city. Maddie suspects the demon is working on a plan to defeat all of humanity. He uses the magical signature he got from the dungeon to pinpoint the demon's location, Everything turns red when Maddie uses the machine, and he finds out that the seal is on the verge of being lifted. The girls ask Maddie if he is strong enough to put the seal back, and he tells them about Zardias. He explains that basic skills do not work on Zardias, and they cannot beat him in their current state. Maddie tells the girls that they might have a chance of beating him if they use an immortality spell and train for 100 years. Iris says they might stand a chance if they had stronger weapons, and Maddie picks up the sword to analyze it. He looks for more items with magical signatures, matching the ones in the ruins, so they can use powerful magic items from elsewhere in the world against him. All of the weapons Maddie made in his previous life have ended up scattered all over the world, so he searches for the magic sword and finds it in the capital kingdom of Ice. Maddie and his party fly to Ace, and Maddie gives Alma and Luri a magistone each that he has designed to react to the magic sword in question. It looks like Zardias has completely broken the seal, and he immediately starts coming after them. Maddie tells the girls to find the magic sword quickly while he holds off Zardias. Students at the academy also notice a strange magical signature and suspect that Maddie is coming. They look up into the air and see Luri and Alma falling from the sky while they are tracing the sword to the castle's treasury. After landing, they take the shortest route to the castle. Maddie prepares his first attack for Zardias and waits for his arrival. Zardias is currently traveling through a space available to demons, similar to the transportation spell used by the demons to attack the capital. Maddie decides to seal the space before Zardias' arrival and buy himself some time. As Zardias opens the space, Maddie tries to seal the space, but he fails, so he is left with no choice but to fight Zardias. Maddie tells Iris to fire one dragon's breath and pull back, as her presence alone should be enough to keep Zardias in check. Zardias takes the dragon's breath, attacks heads-on, and doesn't suffer a single scratch. He draws out his sword and launches his first attack at Iris. Iris evades the attack with the help of Maddie's multi-layered defense. He attacks Maddie immediately. Luri and Alma get to the treasury. Just as they are about to bust through the guards holding them back, the king shows up. They explain the whole situation, and he grants them access right away. Zardias is so crazy fast that Maddie cannot even see all of his attacks. With his chances of winning getting super low, he decides he has to give up his own life to win this battle. Luri and Alma keep searching for the sword, and Luri finally spots it inside a blue box. The second she opens it, she feels this incredible magic power pouring out of it. She grabs it, and they rush back towards Maddie. Zardias tells Maddie that he is a total fool for thinking he could buy time against him with such weak power. He then fires a massive long-range attack over the entire capital, forcing Maddie to throw up a defensive spell to protect everyone. But Zardias figures out that Maddie is making some kind of preparations inside the barrier to fight back. He also knows that his own subordinates cannot get into the capital as long as that barrier is up, so he asks Maddie what he is going to do about the monsters that were already inside when the barrier went up. And just like that, Ashril and Deshril spawn again right in front of the girls. This time, they take them down with ease, but then Ashril himself appears before them. Ashril tells them to surrender their weapons. He threatens to kill 2 of their classmates that he has as hostages if they do not give up their weapons. Maddie senses the demonic signatures inside the barrier, and Zardias tells him that he resurrected the bodies of the demons they had stored in the capital. He says he magically ordered them to kill Maddie's friends. Zardias fires another attack at the barrier, and this one overpowers the defensive spell. Maddie chases after the attack and deflects it somewhere else. Zardias tells him that the only reason he cannot use his full power is because he keeps trying to protect all these weaklings. He tells Maddie to cast everything aside and show him what humanity's strongest really has to offer. The boys being held hostage yell for the girls not to worry about them and just take down Ashril. Ashril asks the girls if they are really okay with watching the boys die, and the girls surrender their weapons. Maddie is just hoping that Alma and Luri have found the weapon, because if that magic sword does not get to him in time, there will be nothing left to stop the destruction of all humanity. Zardias asks Maddie what else he plans to do, since he no longer has any hope of winning, but Maddie refuses to give up on the fight. He can still use his remaining life and magical power to activate the reincarnation spell and jump into the next era, where Zardias' power will have weakened a little. He sharpens his magical combat skills and starts plotting a comeback. He is not about to let the girls down. Not after they have put all their trust in him. Maddie starts his counterattack, and Zardias just calls him a fool. Just as Ashril tries to pick up the weapons, the headmaster and other students stop him with an attack from above. Luri frees the boys who were held hostage, while Alma fires an arrow straight at Ashril. The students also start using the anti-demon tactics they trained for, and pin Ashril down while Luri and Alma continue their mission. Maddie channels his life energy into his magical power to boost his combat potential. He is using it as a last resort to hold out until Luri and Alma arrive. The second Luri throws the sword to Maddie. Zardias stabs Maddie right through his back, the blade piercing deep into his body. All hope seems lost as Maddie drops to the ground. Luri screams his name with tears rolling down her cheeks. But then the stone on his sword starts to shine, and he begins to float into the air. Zardius is completely shocked to see Maddie still alive, since he was sure he killed him by piercing his heart. Maddie tells him that was exactly what activated the sword's ability. They attack each other again, but this time, Maddie is wielding the sword that represents the absolute peak of his craft from his past life. Its activation condition is the loss of the wielder's life, which in turn revives the wielder with a tremendous infusion of magic. Maddie becomes way faster than he was before, and can barely even control his current magic. He tells Zardius that his body is irrelevant this time, because he can simply animate it with magic when he is done. Zardius is stunned, believing no human should be capable of using a skill like that. He asks Maddie who he really is, and Maddie tells him that he is the strongest sage with the weakest crest. Maddie then goes on to finish Zardius in one final slash. Before Zardius vanishes, he tells Maddie that he is not the only chaos demon in the world, and that the next one will surely destroy him. When it is all over, Luri runs to hug Maddie, telling him how scared she was to see him die. The headmaster and the others tell the group that the other students have already taken care of the demons inside the barrier, and no casualties were recorded. Maddie tells them they will have to repair all the damage they did. He expels the magic power from the sword, since it is a one-use magic sword. The next day, Maddie and his party meet with the king, and Luri thanks him for giving them access to the treasury. The king tells them there is no need for thanks, as the kingdom was in peril, and he was just doing his duty to save it. As a reward for their deeds, the king grants them titles and lands. Since Maddie has no desire for a title, and would rather live his life as an adventurer, the king gives him the very sword that Luri took, and also tells him to take anything he likes from the treasury. At the treasury, Maddie finds an adamantite alloy arrow that he created in his past life, which he also made a matching bow for at the time. He asks for the bow, and is told that it was declared useless because it was badly rusted. The guard tells him that it was sold to the Isis Company. The Isis Company is the biggest shop in the area, and is the main buyer of scrap metal from the palace. They go in and ask for the bow, only to find out that it had been turned into a block of metal mixed with a bunch of other metals because they could not identify it. Maddie thinks about separating them, so he could end up with other rare metals. He decides to buy all of their blocks and have them sent to his inn. On their way out, Edgeworth meets up with them and says there is an emergency. They meet with Guile, the captain of the Knight's Order. Although the headmaster already briefed Maddie on the way, Guile tells him that he received a report of an attack 2 days ago near the border with their neighbor, the Sihil Empire. The attack was carried out by 300 of the puppets lying in front of him. Maddie analyzes one and notices that the magic circle is super intricate, and the wood itself is no ordinary wood. He checks it out and finds that the puppet is powered by human life energy. This means it is stealing small amounts of life energy from tons of humans all at once. The only person who could do something like this is a demon. Guile asks Maddie for his help once again for the sake of humanity, and Maddie accepts,